And we are live. Okay.
Cool. Shall I go first?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. So hibernate. The screen. Cool. So I created a database in PHP that connects through MySQL to create the database with the shop table in it. So if I go here, I have my main. Um, So it configures first the Hibernate configuration XML file, which literally connects to the database. So you would use the MySQL JDBC driver, um, and then you would go to the local host at the 3306 port, and this is the database that is used. So I just named it DB, just for short, and I would have a username and a password on the database that I created, or the MySQL login. So I just had root as my username, and I put nothing as my password. I'll show you that right now, um, when I connect to it. So what it does, if there isn't a table, then it would create its own table um, inside that database. So as long as the database is there, it will create the table, and then so it maps from there to the shop hpm.xml file, which goes and either collects the creates or collects the shop inside the database, and it connects it to the model class, the model class that I've created inside Hibernate. So it would go to each of the columns inside the database. I'll show you now. So if I do this, so for instance, here's my database name, and shop is the table under it. So then I would have, oops, what did I just do? Oh no, there we go. So I would have my ID in there, my name, tomatoes, onions, and potatoes. So that kind of refers to the different columns that there are inside the database, and the name connects to my model class um, inside my Hibernate, and it will just say what type of um, attribute it is, or type. So, for instance, ID would be a long, and the others would be it's a varchar, which would be a string. Um, so here's just some getters and setters. So I would save the different names for the connection between. So the name of the of each oh my word, of each attribute or whatever. So I would get the ID, and then I would set the ID, get name, set name. And just for the console, I would put in a string just to say what happens while I do it and what's saved at that moment. So if I run this through again, it goes to the configure file, um, and then it goes and gets the Hibernate, which then goes to the shop, and then uses the getters and setters. Well, just the getter. Um, and then I build the session factory from the configure, and I pretty much just start the session. Um, So the factory where you can start sessions, and then you set the session and you open up the session. So then I ask for name, how many tomatoes, how many onions, how many potatoes, and then I begin the transaction. So every time I begin a transaction, it's what is added to the database. So then I would say a new shop class would be created, and then I would set whatever I put in there as the name, and tomato, onion, potato, and I would save all of this to the shop instance that I created, and then I would just say what is now saved in the output, and then I would get this transaction, and I would commit it to the database, and so then that plants it inside the database, and yeah, so then it's exported there. And so this query is just to retrieve data from the database. So I would go from shop. So shop is the table's name, and I would literally just print it out what I received from that database. So then I have to close the session, and I have to close the factory just to make sure that nothing's left running. Um, but let me run it for you. Okay. So this just goes through, connects to a Hibernate, etc. So then it creates the table shop with the ID, the name, the tomatoes, onions, potatoes. And so if I enter the name and say Jose, say 25 tomatoes, 10 onions, say 5 potatoes. So the console output, so it would all be saved in there, and then it would all be inserted into Hibernate. So when this is there, it means it's already gone through the transaction part, and it was exported and committed to the database. Oh shoot, what did I just do now? Okay, and so then it goes and it collects it again from the database, and that is what is there again. So if I go to this and I reload this, so there's Jose, there's 25 and 10 and 5. And so if I redid that exact one, it would just fill in that same row that I just did. So if I say this, 100 tomatoes, 100 onions, 25 potatoes. So then it would just reload, and it would just replace that. So in order to put more rows, you would have more transactions from the user. Yeah.
So I think there's a way to do auto increment, maybe with the session.
Yes.
So that way you don't have to override whatever you did first.
Yes.
Okay.
I think I put in auto increment. No, I didn't put in auto increment. Apologies, I didn't put in auto increment.
Well, I mean, even if you put it in the database, I wonder, if because you started basically the same session, if it would actually work. I mean, you can probably try, so that way you can. Obviously, you can go. You can go really crazy on this idea, and maybe like say, What if the person is the same person is like just logging back again and adding stuff to what the previous list was? So obviously, yeah, it can go really big, and there's a lot
Yeah.
of features you can include. But yeah, this for to start it's perfect. It looks and it does exactly what it's intended to do.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Cool. Is there anything else that you would like to see? Or
No, that's a really good example of putting hibernate and uh, and the connection to your server, because you're basically running this on your local computer on the local server, so that's good.
yes, yes. Um, Something that helped me to get basic in this, because it's running on my local computer. I I added screenshots of my console, for instance, and my database in PHP just to give evidence that it was working.
Oh, excellent.
Cool.
I'm gonna try that too.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna stop the broadcast.